morning to you. It's good to see you on this Tuesday morning, and of course, to be exact, the date, 18th day of April 2023. I hope that you woke up feeling well and of course ready to tackle the day. Welcome to the show. My name is Winnie Lumbembe, and of course the show is Your World, where we strive as much as possible and bring you conversations that we all should have and we all should think about, but most importantly, take action, all right? And of course, today's conversation is no different. We'll be tackling personal development, but to be precise, we'll be focusing on the mindset. And I know, okay, this is not the first time, you come across the word mindset, all right? And majority of the times when people hear the word mindset, we're just like, oh, okay, here we go again, Life coaches, telling us all about mindset, but really, it's a very important aspects of all our lives that we really should think about and, of course, like I said, act on it. But then again, the big question is what exactly, does mindset and that is shifting our mindset look like? And of course, what forms of the same does it take? And why is it important for all of us to just think about, our mindset and how we react and perceive things, okay? So it's going to be an amazing conversation. You want to stick around until the end of the show. But if you want to be part of the same, at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter is how you can reach us. But better yet, give us a call. You want to share your experience. You want to share your story as well with us. And this is in terms of how you are able to sort of like change, the way you perceive things and think and, all those things. Feel free to do so. And of course, we'll be looking forward to hear what you have to say. But without further ado, Nangami Masakha, who's a public speaker and mentor, she is here on set with us this morning to just really help us understand this whole mindset thing. So, thank you so much for coming by today. You look really lovely in the purple.
Oh, wow.
It's really, really working. It really is working.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and first time here on the show.
Yeah, it is my first time.
How do you feel? How?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The ambience, first of all, it's it's out of this world. I think I've been to. Okay, I don't want to compare because I don't think that is how I should compare. But I'd love to say that this is one of my best shows.
Oh,
yet.
Really?
Yes.
That's really
and
good
of course,
to
then the reception has been warm.
Yeah.
I felt almost home.
Yeah?
Yes.
You are home.
Yeah.
You are home. But thank you for bracing the cold and coming in this morning. And let's just, again, start from the very, very basic, right? Mindset. Because like I said, today we'll be focusing on personal development, different areas that, we need, all of us need to really focus on. But let's just start from everything else. And that is the mindset, right? So when we mention the term mindset, like I said, there's some people who might be like, okay, let's hear what this conversation is all about. And there's some people who will be like, hiya, okay, here we go again.
All right.
And whole thing about
but
mindset.
Kindly allow me to take you back a little
Sure,
bit.
yeah.
Just to understand personal development, what is it? Because people understand, they hear the term personal development and they're not quite sure what it is about.
Exactly
Yes, personal development is just about looking inward and then focusing on becoming a better person. And personal development has 5 aspects. Okay. So when you want to become a better person, then you say you're going on a personal development journey. And personal development, just as it is a journey, it's not a destination. So it's something that you do long term. It's something that you do until the day your body is interred. Yeah. Because when you cease to grow, then you begin to die.
That's
so
true.
You have to grow and develop as you go along through life. So personal development has 5 aspects. That is emotional, mental, social, physical, and spiritual. So emotionally, of course, that is emotional intelligence, just knowing how to go through situations and beat anxiety and stress, burnout, and that sort of thing. Yeah. And then socially, it's just about knowing how to communicate. Communication is an important skill, and knowing how to clearly communicate and then also be a clear speaker, which when you want to speak, you have to be very wary and careful of conversational mitigation. That is when you are not so sure, not so keen about how to articulate yourself. And this is something, of course, then in broader sense, it was experienced, especially in the 70s and 80s, when it came to pilots. That, when the big boss, because the pilot was omniscient, so he was expected to know everything. Everybody who was beneath him, that was the co-pilot and the engineer who was on board, most of the time they didn't know how to communicate well because of the class in terms of the hierarchy. So they did, and that is why, as the aviation, should I say the team or the institution in itself at large has gone on to improve on communication such that co-pilots and pilots can speak as peers, and what is somebody who's above the other, one is higher, because there's a point where an engineer would sense, and they would say that the fuel they're running low on fuel.
But then they can't
communicate. They can't say, they would say, Yeah, we are kind of running low on fuel.
Yeah.
And you know, because the pilot, he's the omniscient, he's the god of the cockpit.
Yeah,
he's almost always into other things.
Yeah.
So he can't listen. And most of the time, the planes would crash.
Yeah.
And same would apply to the co-pilot because he was almost always younger than the boss.
Okay.
So communication is important, how to communicate clearly, and then to be an active listener. Because most of the time, I think we listen to respond. Yes, not to understand what the other person is saying. So that's once you learn and you develop, you become self-aware, your self-esteem, of course, improves. You become, you know, your skills also improve. And then physically, I mean, this goes without saying, once you take care of yourself physically, your body, when your body is fit, your mind is able to think faster because you become productive. You become productive. And then, of course, once you eat right and you sleep, I mean, sleep is important.
What you eat, that's what they say, right?
Yes, you take care of yourself physically, and then you come to the spiritual aspect, is just having the holistic aspect of things, whichever God you pray to, having that sense of higher purpose and higher self, because purpose most of the time comes from understanding that there's a higher power that is at play, that there's a bigger picture, that there's a grand scheme of things, and therefore you're a speck of dust, and as you're here on earth, you're here to serve a purpose and as an assignment. So you can only do that if you have found you inner you.
In all the 5 aspects.
Yes,
that
in all
we talked about.
that is the spiritual
I
side.
mean, it's interesting that we're having this conversation now, because I'm just curious from your position, right? And from your standing, how are we doing as a people? And again, and I'm asking this because when we talk about the whole question about personal development and all those things, we tend to show that. It's like we're dealing with so much right now, Beyonga, through the roof. You know, the kids are here, they need to go to school. I do not have school fees. Maybe I do not have money to pay. Like, we tend to shove that aside and sort of focus on this, which is urgent, right? And then by the time we get here, sometimes it's almost too late, right? So how are we doing as a people in the state that we're in, given everything that is going on around us? Where would you place where we are
as a people? Of course, then we go to the mindset bit, because mindset is incredibly important. And we know that in life, as you go through life, you always face adversity at some point. It doesn't matter, it could be financial, it could be health-wise, but at some point you have to go through adversity, some level of friction, resistance, and even just downright, you hit rock bottom. That happens, and I think as a society that is where we are, and that is where mindset is incredibly important. One of the most important skills anybody could learn is how to go through rejection or any form of adversity and still keep pushing.
We don't like that.
Yes, and of course I think there's something called the curse of perfection. And the curse of perfection is where we believe that for success or for us to excel, everything has to be done in a perfect manner, in a perfect way. And this is something that we see on Instagram. So if you're going through a moment right now, whether it is financially or it is physically or it's emotionally, and then you log on onto any social media platform, and especially Instagram, because it's meant to be glamorous, you're going to see as if everybody else is succeeding, everybody else is going, I was on that trip, I know how to play this instrument, my kids are going to this school, my life is incredibly perfect. And so you almost feel as though you're missing out. And this is where, as a society, then we have that bit of failure is not an option. And I think growing up, I think people of my age, we were taught that that thing was ingrained in us for a very long time. It's a conditioning that failure is not an option. But in business, because I am a proponent of, you know, business management and the likes, we say that if it is new, it's not perfect. And if it's perfect, it can be new. So if you're going through a moment, that phase as a society, when you're going and you're dealing with this, unga, how am I going to feed my kid? How am I going to pay rent? It is understanding that you're going through a moment, and that is where your character and your mettle is tested, and that is we will know now who can stand through adversity, who can go through trials without having to try to beat the system in a negative way. So you're not conning, you're not scamming, you're accepting this. Yes, that's just to get your place in society. So you're understanding that this is a moment, this is a phase, it will pass, and once you have the right mindset for it, then you understand that it is just a brief thing. It's a glitch in the system, and you'll have to figure out ways on how to then move forward. And
I mean, I was listening to a podcast just this morning, a few minutes before we came on air. And this person was talking about how your initial reaction to anything will determine how everything else goes, right? And they were saying, for example, you come across, I mean, something, for example, does not go your way, right? I mean, this morning you're trying to come to the studio and then you hit, you know, the traffic, right? Your initial response to this traffic, this incident, will determine, you know, sort of like the rest of your journey and how you get here, right? You could either be like, this is a mess and all those things, and then you get stressed out and then you're not able to do anything. Or you could be like, you know what, fine, this is traffic. Yes, it will mess with my time, but at the same time, what do I do so that I make sure that I get to studio on time? And I was like, okay. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Right? I mean, it's the best response to look for solution in trouble. But at the same time, it's like sometimes your initial reaction is to get stressed and then figure out a solution later. Right. So there's usually that, you know, conflict between what should be done ideally versus what it is and how I'm feeling in that moment. So just try to think, how then do we use that on our day-to-day life, just to make sure that, again, like you said, because everything starts with, you know, our response and how we do things. Yes.
And I think it's a human condition, because most of the time we want to be in control of situations. We want to be in control of and determine how things are going to work out, especially for our lives. So I know that I set out to leave the house at 6 a.m. and I'm supposed to be at the studio at 7, even as I was coming here. But the intention was to be here at exactly 7, but I was here like perhaps 10 minutes later. And if I'm stuck in traffic, there are two things. Either I can get stressed out about it, or I can just decide to use that time and do something else. Right. Because at that particular point, there's really nothing I can do to that situation unless I have to get out of the car and walk to this place. That could be an option. And if it's a distance, then I just have to sit in traffic, make a call and say, I'll be running late, or perhaps I'm not even ever going to make it to the show because I'll be just incredibly late. Incredibly late that I won't be able to make it. So you have to look at situations and assess. Is it something that is within my purview? Is it something that is within my control? And most of the time, situations, we are in very, very little control of things. And I think as human beings, because we want to know how things are going to pan out, how things are going to develop, then we get stressed about stuff. But once you relinquish that power and that control and say that at this particular moment, really, there's nothing I can do. And even in that situation where we are going through as a nation, there's so much that's going on with the government, there's so much that's going on with the opposition, so much that is going on with the economy. You ask yourself at that particular point, given my situation and my circumstance at this particular point, how much control do I have? And then be in charge of that little control. And then you get to realize that the control you have is very little, as you just mentioned with the traffic. And then just decide to do something about it, positive about it. You could take that opportunity then to listen to a podcast, to read a book, to answer emails. You know, by the time you get here, half of the things that you wanted to do, you've returned calls and whatnot, half of the things are done. And then at the end of it all, you realize, because there are no, what's it called? I think the word
not constant. Is that what you're looking for?
No. There are no coincidences in the universe. So everything happens the way it is supposed to happen. Even me being here, seated on this seat, it's not an accident.
It's not an accident.
it is something that was
meant to happen.
It was something that was already set in motion a very long time ago.
I see
that. And of course, like I mentioned at the beginning, you know, with speakers, we tend to have this hocus pocus nonsense, and you know, we're speaking to some universe that is out there that we can see. But like I mentioned again, in the spiritual development of who you are, when you believe that there's a grand scheme of things, there are no coincidences. So you'll get to realize that perhaps even coming here early there's something that would have happened along the way, and it had stopped you from being part
where
of
you
that
were
mess.
supposed to do.
Or or even just reading that book and having the time. Or it could also be a lesson teaching you how to manage your emotions, and it will reveal you to you. How do you handle such situations? Yes.
Listen, it's a lot to think about. It really is a lot to think about. But then again, now that we're focusing on the mindset, right? There are two different, you know, types, right?
Right.
And which I want us to go through and just help us really understand what this means and how that reflects in our day-to-day activities. Because again, it's true. There's some things that are beyond our control, and there's some things that we can have maybe some sort of control. And how then we choose to respond to these situations will inform how, you know, the outcome of anything, right, that we're dealing with at that particular moment. So let's talk about this then, you know, this different forms of mindset? We have two?
Yeah,
okay.
Two types of mindset. There's a growth mindset and the fixed mindset.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So I would start with, let me start with the good news, then finish with the bad news. So the good news is that the growth mindset is where you believe that talent is everything. Yeah, we need talent. You need the genetic inheritance for you to be an athlete. You need perhaps even the mental stamina and their wherewithal for you to do some particular type of tasks, be an engineer, doctor, a tech guy, that sort of thing. But talent is incredibly important. But then again, in the growth mindset, that is where you believe that talent is not everything. So I may not have the talent, I may just have marginal talent. But if I put in the hard yards, if I put in the time, the effort, then what I'm going to get out of this is that I'm going to be excellently good. What I believe is that for me, when I began speaking, I knew that I wasn't good at that particular point. And in life, you have to understand where you are. Because when I started out, of course, everyone else said to me, why are you going to speak and not being paid to speak? And I said, I have to speak. One, I lacked the skill. And at a particular point, that particular point in my life, I needed to do more because practice makes perfect. The more I do, the better I become.
You know what you talked about earlier on, which I think is very profound, and how it comes in this aspect of, the growth versus the fixed mindset, is this whole aspect about perfection, right? And how everything has to be perfect. If it's not perfect, then all those things. If my talent is not perfect, I'm not going to succeed, and all those things. How about we take a break? Give us a second, because we've talked about a lot of things, okay? Just to
cool down,
right? Absorb all those things, and then we'll come back
and
really then focus on growth mindset. How is it that there's some people who have this sort of mindset and others just have fixed, and how do you move from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset? And how will that help us navigate this thing called life? Right? Okay. But if you have a question at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and Twitter, is how you can reach us, or better yet, give us a call. The numbers will be down on your screen, and just help us understand, first of all, how are you navigating this thing called life, and where are you at in this very moment? Are you the fixed mindset type of person, or the growth growth mindset type of person? All right. All that is coming up. That is your feedback after the break. Stay with us. This is your world.
Dad, what made you decide to become a doctor?
Because my father needed one. And you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be happy like you.
Life insured is love assured.
Gava sasa iko mkononi. eCitizen iko na karibu huduma 5,000 za Gava, kama driving license, marriage certificate, business license, passport application, certificate of good conduct na zingine zaidi. Hatua ya kwanza, ingia pale ecitizen.go.ke na ufinye create an account. Hatua ya pili, chagua Kenyan Citizen alafu ufinye create an account. Hatua ya tatu, weka details zako. Hatua ya mwisho, hapa sasa utapata hizo huduma na utachagua ni gani unahitaji. Bas, si ni hivyo? eCitizen, Gava mkononi.
Unity Homes invites you to our open week from the 15th to the 23rd of April at Tatu City off Thika Superhighway. Come view our vast array of high-quality projects ranging from 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom apartments.
Book your unit today by calling us on 0701 550 550.
My name is Paris Chirchir, Olympic marathon champion. I will be running on this here London Marathon. Watch me live on NTV on 23rd of April.
The London Marathon, 23rd April, live on NTV.
Fruity freshness in every sip. As a student, start building a professional network by attending corporate events for the industries in which you want to build your career.
Are leaders born or made? Park University demystifies this paradox and responds by transforming every student enrolled into the leaders Africa needs. Apply now or simply log on to www.parkuniversity.ac.ke.
Park University, where leaders are made.
All right. Okay, welcome back. Of course, the conversation continues even during the break. And of course, it's all about personal development. And of course, today we're taking a very special emphasis and focus, and this is as far as the mindset is concerned. And of course, before we went on a break, of course, Nangami was telling us about, you know, the two different types of mindsets that we have. We have the growth mindset, and we have the fixed mindset. And of course, we started with the growth mindset, right? And of course, these people are constantly looking to improve. Right? They do not look at a situation just be like, yeah, nothing I can do about it. That's it, end of life. This is where
Yes.
you know, there's always that drive to constantly grow and to be better.
Yes.
But the question is, then what is it? What is it about this person that, you know, they have this type of mindset? Because again, someone might be watching us and thinking, yeah, but we all want to grow, right? We all want to thrive, we all want to improve, we all want to be better versions of ourselves, but just sometimes I can't. I was like, I just can't.
Yeah. I think most of us have this inbuilt inertia.
Yeah.
So we would rather, it's in the human, you know, the brain was not created for success.
Okay.
The brain was built for survival. So the brain thrives in complacency. The brain thrives in comfort, in a comfort zone.
Right.
And that is why the only time people take steps, the only time people make incredible changes in their lives is when there's pain, because now the pain is much more powerful than the comfort, so you have to make that step. But some of us in our inertia, we're like, my situation is bad, but it's familiar and it's comfortable, so I'd rather sit where I am, and so you don't take the initiative.
Go to the unknown.
Yes, and most people don't take the initiative. So you'll find that there are people who are incredibly talented, there are people who are incredibly smart, and yet they don't do anything significant to impact the world in any significant way, because they were too comfortable in their comfort zone. Yes. So that inertia is which will not allow us then to take the step to want to become better. And while we were off, I was just mentioning to you the reason why we have people who are considered to have, or to be of mediocre, or rather average talent, have gone on. Have you ever, like, you look at your friends you went to school with, they're doing so well, and they're flying first class, and they're doing all these things.
Number last when we were in
school. Number last, like, but I'm smarter than this individual. I'm more talented than this individual, and yet they're doing well for themselves. It's because the universe rewards effort. There's a very beautiful relationship between reward and effort, and then that bit of consistency. So like I was telling you, when I started out I was mediocre, but one thing I know, no matter how tough times get, especially for me personally, I don't care how bad things are. One thing I know, I'm not stopping, so I won't stop. Because I know that if I do this thing consistently, it doesn't have to pan out in 2 years. It doesn't have to pan out in 3 years. But I believe for the life of me, in 5 years, it will have compounded. In 5 years, I'll be a good speaker. In 5 years, I'll be a good saleswoman, because I know how to sell my ideas. I know how to change perceptions. In 5 years, I know how to market myself and brand myself. Why? Because I've done this thing over and over again. I've iterated the process. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I know how to strategize. I know who to talk to, who not to talk to. So I am sure that if I stop, I stop the process. I halt the process. And then I'll have gone 3 years, 4 years, and then stopped. And how all that effort.
It's like then you have to come all the way.
I'll be like, all that effort. All that. It's like when you say you want to run 10 kilometers and then you're at 8 kilometers, at the 8th kilometer. Like, I've come 8 kilometers. I can't give up now. I only have 2 kilometers. Let me do the 2 kilometers.
So then do you sort of like have to then find a motivation? Like for this person with a growth mindset, do they always have a motivation so that they keep going? Because again, like you said, sometimes being in your comfort zone can be, you know, it can be crippling because this is what you know. And some people would rather just stay here in the known than, you know, push themselves harder into the unknown and figure out what that looks like when they get there. So is there like, so does there need to be like a motivation behind everything? Or sometimes, you know what, just take that leap of faith and see where it leads you.
Okay, I know that motivation is fleeting.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So today I can wake up, I have to go hit the gym.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for the life of me, I can't go to the gym.
Yeah.
Then I need discipline. But at the beginning, you need something to motivate you.
All right.
So I'd give you an example. Perhaps for me, my motivation is seeing my parents retire and live a beautiful life that I, as a child, have provided for them.
Right.
So that then becomes my drive, because if I don't do it, then nobody else will do it. For someone else, it could be poverty for them. For someone else, it could be, you know, but for most people, I think the drive is poverty, and most of us are driven by insecurities. So if you are a nobody at some point in your life, you'll always want to strive towards
and you hear this
being
conversation on a day-to-day basis. I want to live a life that I was not given when I was younger. So then do we have instances where there could be good motivations and bad sort of like motivations, you know? Because then it's the intention behind why we are striving to sort of like be better, right? And either way, does that work or not?
It does. Okay, let's just be honest. Most of our motivations are selfish. Most of our motivations are selfish. Nobody starts out and say, you know, I want to make a better world, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. Most of the time is, I want to have a roof over my head and food on the table.
Yes.
For me and my family. So you start with that in mind, that I want to start this business. I want to get into this career because I want to provide a comfortable life for myself and my kids. And then in the process, you find out that these lack in the field, in the industry, and then so you iterate, you innovate, you become creative about it. So for instance, if today I say I want to be a public speaker, I'm not here as a public speaker because I enjoy being a public speaker, right? Yeah, I enjoy being a public speaker. By the end of the day, my son's got to eat. So when I get that call, I'm like, how much are you paying me? You know, at least I've gotten to a point where I have a red card and I can say, how much are you paying me? But in the process, when I now come to deliver, I have to make sure that I do my best. I bring my best. And one thing about the best is that when I say I want to be the best version of me, it doesn't mean that I want to be the best in the world. Being the best in the world is a consequence of being the best version of you. Yes, so yes. So we start off by that particular point. So most of our drives come from insecurities, of the fears, and most of us are driven by fear and anger. So we're driven by fear of lack, and sometimes the anger comes from my boyfriend said I'll amount to nothing. And I'm going to go back to school. And I'm going to get into business just to make sure that that teacher, that parent, that sibling, that boyfriend or girlfriend who said I would amount to nothing, they would see me in 5 years or 10 years time being someone. So our drive initially is just about self-aggrandizing. It's not something that, you know, it's noble, but at the end of the day, when we put in the time in the hard yards, then we create this beautiful work of art. Then
I like that. Okay, can we talk about then the fixed mindset? Right. And what's you know, the difference between these two you know, groups of people, the one with the growth mindset and the one with the fixed mindset? So when we say one has a fixed, what exactly does that mean?
Fixed mindset is in two categories. So fixed mindset is someone who's talented. They, you know, somebody who's you want to be a basketball player, you have the height, you have the speed, you have this agility, you have the stamina, everything. You know, you can do your work in the basketball pitch. But you believe that that's it. My talent is everything. And this is why you see, we have seen it with musicians, we've seen it with artists, we've seen it with actors who believe that I was the best. How come I just fizzled into, you know, back into the shadows and nothing meaningful has come out of it? It's because they thought that it is their talent that is going to take them further. So that is the fixed mindset, where I believe talent is everything, I've got it, so I don't need to try. And then in the fixed mindset, there's those people who believe I lack the talent. I'm not as good as Rudy when it comes to presenting. So I shouldn't try, you know. So that is almost the negative aspect of the other one. I lack talent. I shouldn't try. And the other one believes I have the talent. I don't need to put in the hard yards. That's enough. And like I'd mentioned, when it comes to now sports, this is where it has been seen, especially in big clubs, where you have these upstarts or these youngsters who get into the clubs and then they fizzle and they don't play well anymore, and they just end up being sold. You know, it's because they're not being advantageous to the team. It's because they have this ego. I believe that I am the best, and everybody else is.
I mean, the team is lucky to have
me.
The team the world is lucky to.
Like, did you see the amount that the manager got me for to come into this team? Means I'm good, so I don't need to try. Right, and of course now with the we saw that with Cristiano Ronaldo, he had the talent obviously, but he knew that he needed to be the best, and so he put on effort. Yes, he put in the work. So that is a growth mindset. Who believes that I have it, but I can be better.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of people really, you know, who ideally you might not consider talented or the best or this, right? In a typical societal, you know, standing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they've gone to make a whole lot of difference, you know, when it comes to not only their lives, but also, you know, to the world, which is a good thing. And that clearly, you know, shows the distinction between these two different people. Now, the question is, and especially for the fixed mindset, I know for the growth we talked about, there's some different things that, you know, will drive this group of people. Could be, you know, background, could be your own selfish interest, could be whatever it is that motivates these people. But for the fixed mindset, so then where does this stem from? Is it the same insecurities? Or is it something totally different? Does background have, you know, an impact in terms of how this person then turns out to eventually have this fixed mindset? Or what exactly does this stem from?
Background, and especially upbringing has an incredible influence on the mindset. So if you grew in an environment that the default was poverty, so, and I think for most of us, our psyche, and myself included, and I'm trying to really get out of this this situation with this type of mindset, is where the default is always in poverty. So especially if you come from a place of lack and want and difficulty and adversity, you saw your parents really struggle to take you through school, or you saw yourself struggle just to, you know, live a day at a time. The default will always be that lack, which is why most people, especially when you're starting out, they'll tell you, you know, just buy a small car so that you know, you don't. And I know it has the economical implications
to the same,
Yes, it could be that, okay, just buy a small car so that the money you have, you can invest, you can save, you can do A, B, C, D. But for most people, the conversation is just have a small car, live in a small house. In case you lose what you have, in case you lose the job, you don't have a difficult time then, you know, getting yourself from the trenches. So your default is that place of lack and want.
And comfort.
Yes, and comfort.
Familiar.
Yes, familiar with that environment. When for even people who, most of the people who are wealthy people, their default is wealth. How am I going to create more wealth? Okay, I want to live in this particular environment for now so that I can save up to live in a better environment. So once you have that, and we know that human beings are energy, you put that out into the world. And so things happen, and like the alchemist says, that the universe will conspire to give you your desires. So, and it doesn't know whether you're joking, whether you're in fear, whether it's fear-driven or not.
Listen, sometimes I usually have like this back and forth with the universe. It's like when you think negative, it's like all the negative things comes, you know, across your way, right? So it's not able to distinguish between, oh no, that was just like a thought and it passed. No, it will actually conspire to give you. Okay, all right. So then, how do we know? Because again, like we said, sometimes some things might feel familiar. Or sometimes people might be afraid to put in more effort and take a step further to sort of like improve their lives or the situation or whatever it is that motivates them, right? So then how do we know that, for example, I have a growth mindset or I have a fixed mindset? Because again, remember, like we said, if it feels familiar, if it feels comfortable, there are some people who will choose to stay there and just be okay. So then how do you know? What are some of the, I don't know, like signs, things that maybe you can point out, you know, so that someone just sits and think, okay, so where do I fall?
Now that we explained what the growth mindset is and the fixed mindset is, with the growth mindset, you're somebody who's always driven. And you're the sort of person who perseveres through adversity because you know that you can get better, you can become better. So things, of course, things will always get to you as a person and as an individual. And if you haven't gone through hard times, trust me, winter is coming. You're going to go through a hard time. It's going to come.
Coming.
Yes. And so if you have then the wherewithal and you have the resources to go through that, especially mentally, because there's some challenges where my parents can't can't do anything to remedy them. My circumstances, my financial situations, my friends, no matter how many friends I have to go through this situation. And like I normally have to say sometimes, when you go through, when you are in adversity, the best way is through it. You can't go over it, you can't go under it, it's just to go through it. Yeah, you have to go through it. So if you're the sort of person who is undeterred, you're the sort of person who always understands that I will go through whatever I'm going through, and I will come the other side a better person, a better individual, and I'll still come out scared, scarred, but I'll still come out the other side. You have the growth mindset, because for you now, you're not bogged down by defeat. But someone who's in the fixed mindset, you're fixed. You are rigid. You're not open-minded. So you just believe that this situation that I'm in, this is it. So you don't know how to, that is why in personal development we say when you handle the emotional aspects of it, emotional intelligence, you know how to navigate stress and anxiety. So somebody who's in a fixed mindset, and unfortunately then you will then, what is it called? You will plunge yourself into depression, anxiety, and then all these mental illnesses and mental health issues. Yes, because your mind is fixed on an outcome. Your mind is fixed in the way you do things. So once you figure out that you are somebody who always has expected outcomes, you don't know how to have nuance. Yes, it has to happen this way, and if it doesn't happen this way, then I'm doomed. We're
not going to try it.
Yes, and I'm doomed. My life is over. It's over. Yes, then that's you in the fixed mindset.
I see that. I see that. And again, I like the fact that you pointed out that this is not to say people with a growth mindset do not have, you know, these challenges. They do not come across these challenges. We all go through it at one point or the other. It's then how we come out of the same is what determines where we are at. Someone with a fixed mindset watching us this morning and thinking, okay, fine, I do not want to say I'm doomed. I want to grow. I want to get myself from this cocoon, you know, of comfort and familiar, and I'd rather just better the devil, you know, than the angel you don't know kind of situation, and make something better for myself, you know, and build resilience and experience growth, right? Where do they start from? Because remember, like we talked about the 5 aspects, you know, that is, we talked about social, we talked about spiritual, we talked about emotional, physical, as well as mental, right? So where do you start from? Where do you start from? Because it can be a bit, okay, I don't want to say, can be difficult, but it's not impossible, right? To move from this fixated sort of like mindset all the way to growth mindset. The mind. Okay. Before you can reach anything, you have to start with the mind. Because the mind is the central, it's a central organ that, of course, then directs everything. So we've seen people who are in, literally vegetables, people who are incapacitated, and then they came back to life. And they are thriving and they are walking. Somebody who was bedridden or somebody who was written off, as they could never walk, and then by sheer force of will, they could walk. It had to begin in the mind. They had to see themselves walking. They had to see themselves taking the initiative and having the drive and the ambition to walk. So everything else starts in the mind. Doesn't matter how physically fit you are. If this is broken, you're broken. It doesn't matter how, and I think it's only the physical aspect that you can have some detachment. So you meet people who look fit, who look proper, and yet they're broken here. But if this place is broken, you will lack emotional intelligence. You will lack social intelligence. And social intelligence is knowing when to speak, what to say, and at what time. Right? Yes. So it has to begin in the mind. And you have to see yourself going through that challenge and adversity, despite the fact that everything else is contrary to that belief. You have to believe it. And of course, now we'll have to refer to the good book, where that lady who just touched the hem of Jesus' garment. Jesus was not overflowing with powers to heal people, but just the fact that she believed, if I touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed. It was not Jesus that healed that woman, it was her faith. She just, if I touch this guy's garment, I'm going to be healed. So you have to have that level of faith. And that is why faith is incredibly important in anybody's life, because faith is when we believe in the unknown. It doesn't matter what you know. We see the invisible. We see the invisible. Like I know, for instance, you have your own plans, you have your own dreams, and if you were to tell them to me, I'd be bored to death. I'd be like, I'm looking at this tree. I'm you start looking at them and you'll be like, you're good, but you're being too overambitious. You know, you're thinking of the things that you would do, the places that you'd go, the lives that you would impact. I can't say that. Why? It's a vision. It's something that is in your mind. So I don't see why we should only see it in terms of visions and the things that you want to accomplish, and not us now getting ourselves
from the rut that we are in.
And put in the work.
Yes, so it has to apply fast. It has to start in the mind. You have to see it before you can believe it.
Okay.
Yes, so you have to, people think that I have to, once I believe, then I can say, no.
Yeah.
Once I see it, I see it in my mind, then I believe it, and then everything, so everything has to start in the mind.
That's for okay. Yeah. And like we were talking about this earlier on, I mean, during the break, and we said, listen, some of these things we are not taught in schools.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You're told, go to school, work hard, get good grades, go to high school, go to the university, you know, look for a job, and then settle down, get kids, end of story. But nobody tells you, moving from point A to point B, you might encounter 1, 2, 3, 4 challenges. From point B to point C, this is what, nobody tells you that. Is that you just go, you figure life, right?
Right.
As you move. So then when do we start to learn this, you know, the skills, and maybe for the parents, at what point, even for the teachers in school, for caregivers and, you know, spiritual leaders and all those things, when do we start having these conversations, right? And just talk about real life. Forget, you know, the grandiose, it's gonna be okay, you are the best, you know, all those things.
Right.
Practical conversations and you know, just about life and what really life is all about. When do we initiate such conversations?
As early as possible. For a child, as early as possible. Because I'd like to refer this, especially when I'm speaking on the topic of the mindset, what we are speaking about at this particular moment, is that, of course, there's a study in the 80s in the United States which was supposed to give, you know, improve the self-esteem of kids. And so they would shower them with glamorous comments, and then you get, you know, you get trophies for 10th position, for 100th position, for trying, because they thought they were building their self-esteem. It was called the self-esteem movement. So the idea was to pump them up so that they would believe that, you know, kumbaya, I can do anything, I'm the best. So as a grown up individual, you've been told one too many times that you're the best. And so you come to life and you realize that life is not as rosy. There are times, like we said, if it is new, it can't be perfect. And if it is perfect, it is definitely not new. So once you come out into the world, which is a dog society, most of them you came to realize then at that particular point that the world was not going to reward them for trying. Nobody's given a trophy for trying. In sports, you win or you lose. The winner gets the trophy. Whether you're position 2, you're position 3, you won't go around saying, you know, the runners-up. No, nobody cares. What's the runners-up? I don't care. We only remember the GOAT. We only remember Michael Jordan. Whoever came second and third after him, we don't care. Whoever came after Muhammad Ali, we don't care. So with that movement, it failed flat on its face. Because then it created people who had this very fragile personas and the self-esteem. So once you start, especially with kids, you have to allow them to fall. That is why when they ride their bikes, you allow them to fall. You allow them to play in the mud. You allow them to make mistakes, because that is what life is. Yes. So as early as possible, and I think especially here in Kenya and in Africa, and perhaps even the world over, nowadays we have this talk to kids and to high schoolers just to remind them that life is about fail. It's about mistakes. That you're going to fail more than you succeed. Yes. So once they have that understanding early on, even as you go through life, and then you say that thing in the Bible, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Is even though I walk through the toughest time of situations, nothing bad will happen to me. This is perfectly human.
I like that. Okay. And yesterday we were talking about the generation alphas, and it's a lot. That is happening in that generation, and of course a lot of influence, you know, being in the digital space, and you know how, you know, first of all, just technology in itself, you know, sort of like has an impact, you know, on them and all those things. So I think, the earlier, the better, you know. And one of the teachers that we had on set said, listen, now, back then we wouldn't think at children understand, or children want to know about life. No, it's like, you know, what are we going to eat for dinner? And then that's it, and then tomorrow we'll figure out. But the teacher said, listen, now kids are actually calling the teachers and telling them, listen, let's talk about life. So like, isn't that interesting? I mean, that's a really good point to start this conversation. Okay, so someone is asking on Twitter, this is Tony Dafu, says, which of the 5 aspects should come first? The ones that we talked about, right? So like we said, again, there's the mental, social, spiritual, emotional, and physical. Which one comes first?
Mental. Mental is everything.
Ooh,
the
I like
mind
that.
is everything.
Yeah. Something
The
to really
mind
think about.
is
Yeah.
everything. You know, they say when most of us, when we die, we only have exhausted 20% of our brain.
True.
20%. So that means that most of us will die below average. Below average. You will not have utilized that resource that we're given.
Okay.
Yes. So mental, and that is why I think mental health right now is key.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
really
once you fix this, you have fixed everything. You will fix the way you behave.
Yeah.
You will speak. You will fix the way you look at yourself, because now self-awareness and then fulfillment and aspirations. You will want to live a life of, towards that direction. So mindset is everything. Everything stems from the mind. And that is why if this dies, it doesn't matter whether the heart is pumping
or not.
At some point they'll have to let you go.
That's
so
true.
there are people who are on life support, and when they say you're brain dead, whether your heart is perfectly fine and it's in perfect shape and you're physically fine and socially and you have all the money, they'll have to let you go.
That's true.
They'll have to let you go. So that means that this takes care of this.
Of everything else.
Yes. The mind takes care of the heart. And that is why even in relationships, that is why God gave us a mind. The heart left to its own devices would make some of the most stupid mistakes. That is why in a situation you have to use logic. And people will ask, why is she staying in such an abusive relationship? It's the heart that's in control. Because logically, that person knows they need to leave.
Absolutely.
They need to leave. But now the heart has taken over.
Listen, they usually say love with the mind and not the heart. But then I guess sometimes it's just too much. Okay. All right. And even like we said earlier on, the whole question about trauma and our background and how then that influences how we see things, how we perceive things, how we respond to situations. So I understand why you're saying, listen, take care of, the mind. Just start from there, and then everything else, we'll build pole. Okay. And like we said, we might sit here and talk, all day. It seems like so easy. It's like, yes, today I'm going to take care of my mind and all those things, and then tomorrow I move from fixed to growth mindset and all those things. Honestly, sometimes it's not as easy, said than done, right? It's always easier said than done, right? So the practical steps, like we said, figure out, understand where you are at mentally, and then, start from there and build yourself pole. But then again, so these practical steps, what are we talking about? I know when we talk about counseling, when we talk about seeing a therapist and all those things, a lot of people will have a lot of things to say. It's like, I'm not weak. I can take care of my problems, I am not this, I am not that, and the whole stigma that comes with, mental health and talking to a therapist or a counselor. So what are some of these practical steps that we take? Okay,
like I mentioned in the beginning, personal development is a journey.
It's a journey.
So I think for most people, you think that I'm going to start on a personal development journey and in 2 years I'll be done. No, you're human. Forgive yourself for the mistakes you made and accept that you're going to make more mistakes in the future. It is guaranteed that you make more mistakes in the future. And that is why personal development is something that you do for the rest of your life. It's not something that you stop.
It's not like a one-time thing and then
and for me, I'm
sorted.
a huge...
You have all the answers.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not just cast in stone. Like if you do this in 2 years, you will never be susceptible to anger. You'll always, kumbaya, you know how to deal with people. No, there are days when you're going to have bad days. And like I said, winter is coming. There's time when you're going to face adversity. In that particular moment, you may not have the necessary tools to go through it. But because of personal development, today, I wasn't good yesterday. I intend to do better today. So I'm a huge proponent of the Stoics. So the Stoics, most of the time, these are just like ancient philosophers. I know it looks grandiose and make me look smart.
Like I read books.
I read books and I read the Stoics. I can quote Descartes and Friedrich Nietzsche. No. But the beautiful thing about this is that with the Stoics, especially for a guy like Marcus Aurelius, it was always about taking stock of today. So they have morning reflection and the evening reflection. So morning reflection is when you say what I anticipate for the day. So this is when it comes to anger, when it comes to emotions, and this and that, forgiveness and that sort of thing. This is how I am going to deal with it. And then in the evening, like, I'm a huge fail.
Right?
Yes, I didn't get any
of the things that I anticipated.
Yes, so I will do better tomorrow. So for anybody who's starting on, who's on this journey, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Like for me, the only thing I take seriously is my work.
Okay.
I don't take myself seriously. I don't take people around me seriously because I know it's life.
Okay.
And in the grand scheme of things, I'm a speck of dust. 100 years from today, I won't matter. The kind of work I'm doing today perhaps may not matter. I may not get into the annals of history. So I'll just fizzle out. And for that reason, I live life without any unencumbered.
Okay.
Right? So once you live life knowing that you're human and it is wired in your DNA to make mistakes, so you just aim on becoming better as an individual. That is the beautiful thing about personal development. So you wake up 5 years and like, nowadays things don't faze me as much as they did. So I'm better for that. And that is a win in itself.
Okay. I'm like, okay. Isn't that sort of like a risk in itself? I totally understand where you're coming from, you know, when you say, listen, sometimes just don't take life seriously, right? Because again, you tend to have higher expectations, you know, unrealistic expectations. And if things don't go the way you expected them to go, and then, you know, brings about all these emotions. But then again, there's someone who might take this and just say, listen, it's life, YOLO, right? Take the day as it comes. We move, right? And all those things. And don't put in effort or don't put in work just to be better, do better, and, you know, in the process make the world a better place. So that is where
By the way, there's a juxtaposition there, because I understand that for someone else who's incredibly complacent, so they'll think, oh, okay, I'll take life, you know, I mean, it'll take life easy, I don't have to put any effort, I
won't matter anyway.
I won't matter anyway. No. What we are saying is that, okay, there's a very beautiful book written on, you know, theory of randomness, that life is incredibly random. We are not in control of what happens, and this is something that we saw 3 years ago with the pandemic. Life will happen, and you'll have to adjust. So what I'm trying to say is this, that you have very little control as a human being. And I know that that is not glamorous to say. That's not something that is pleasing. But when you sit with yourself, you realize that most of the time in the day, things are happening to you.
Beyond your control.
Things are happening outside of you, right? And you are not in control of most of those things. So when I say that I don't take myself seriously, it's to say, it's to mean that I'm going to do my best. But if things don't work out in the end, I know that I did my best with what I had. And if things didn't turn out, then I'm not going to be serious about it. I'm not going to be frustrated and furious.
And drown in sadness.
And drown in sadness and mull about it.
Consider yourself
right. So I'm just going to do what I have to do. If you're religious, I'm going to pray about it and surrender it to a higher power. If you're not religious, then you're going to do the little thing you can do with the resources that you have to try and remedy the situation without being too hard on yourself. Right. Because even being too hard on yourself doesn't change the situation.
And it doesn't help. Majority of the times you'd find that it works, I mean,
against
makes things, makes things worse.
And it makes you take decisions you shouldn't take. Right.
I hear you. Okay then. So look at where you are, you know, figure out all those things, start from where you can to make yourself a better person, right? The big question is, should we have timelines? And I'm asking that because, again, there are some people who would say goals. I mean, listen, this is life. We plan, and then life just gives you something totally different, right? But then again, in this journey, because I like the fact that you pointed out and said, this is not a destination. This is a journey, right? It's not something that you start today and then you're like, Mini Mefika, end of story. No, it will take, you know, some bit of time, and that's okay. But in our strive to be better and to grow and to thrive and all those things, should we sort of like give ourselves like timelines, little bit of goals here and there, you know, so that we have something to look forward to. Remember the motivation that we talked about?
Like the proper motivational speaker that I am. I've been branded a motivational speaker, well, I'm not. But like the perfect or the quintessential motivational speaker that I am, I'd say that you need to have goals, of course, for accountability. But we all know, if we're to be honest, we know that those don't work. If you're facing grief, what's the timeline to get over it? There's no timeline.
There's no timeline.
You will heal when you heal.
That's true.
The only thing you look up to is the healing. That I will be better. This too shall pass. So you don't know when it will pass, but this too shall pass. When I say, and that is why when we have vision boards, you say that vision boards for most people will tell you in the next 6 months I want to have this. A proper vision board should not have a timeline. A proper vision board should be, I want to have an X5 BMW. I want to have an X5. I want to live in this neighborhood. I want to have gotten to this level in terms of my career and whatnot. And then you work towards that. So if you have the timeline, you limit yourself, because if it doesn't materialize, and what we do most of the time, we don't know how to celebrate the small wins, because we have this big thing.
The bigger goal. I like that. Thank you so much. This has been very eye-opening, I must say. And Jackson Buru actually agrees on Twitter and says, following and learning, you know, this aspect of life. Thanks a lot. Thank you really for coming by today, Nangami Masakha, public speaker and mentor. I know you have learned so much from today's conversation and picked a lot from today's conversation. So really, we cannot say thank you enough, Nangami, really, for sharing, you know, this very, very useful insight for us. So I think the work begins, okay? The work begins. This is a journey. It's not a destination. One day at a time, and strive to be better, you know, each and every moment. So allow us to say goodbye. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and of course, on behalf of everybody who put together and made sure that the show is a success, we say thank you. God bless. Have yourselves a lovely day ahead, and strive to be better. Goodbye for now.
What the hell are you doing with my script?
I read it since the subject seemed interesting, about market segmentation, and I think there's a mistake on page 4.
What do you know about scripts? Just focus on your job.
You don't have the right to meddle in my personal life because you are not my wife.
I don't like your attitude towards your job. You're so irresponsible. Do you think you can get away with anything because you're my sister?
Yo, but true say the sharp got up in the mix, you know what I'm saying? NTV, shout out to you, bro. Keep it locked. Hey.
Sauti yako ina sound vizuri kwenye masikio.
I like it. Come to the dance floor, babe.
Angie.
Leo tuna festa pe banda.
Festa pe banda. Another banda.
And it's just like an amazing mix.
I am happy today.
Sin koma vitu nani leo. Inaweka shida chini na tupa mikono juu. Banjuka juu.
No compromise, this the hottest combo.
Unistima, uninade. Mix on MTV. Don't touch that dial. Not yet. No, what there?
Kidney transplant entails getting this good kidney from one person and implanting it onto another person whose kidney has failed.
I got these questions like, will I be able to do any manual or physical labor? Will I also be a sickling like you? So the first thing that the doctor did was, my whole family came together. We all went into the doctor's office for counseling. So we were explained to what kidney donation is.
There are some instances where the body can actually reject the kidney from the donor.
Getting that kidney is like being reborn again.
Okay.
Yes, because your body function returns to normal.
My name is Jeffrey Kamoror, 5-time world champion. I'll be running in this year's London Marathon, which will be on 23rd April. Watch me live on MTV.
The London Marathon, 23rd April, live on MTV.
Daring Abroad makes me dare. It's the only show of its kind in the world. And now, it's bigger.
And even more entertaining and informative than before.
Hapa kunaitwa Kakoe na inatubaba sana.
From London to Jersey Island.
Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo to the scenic features of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
And many more places abroad and at home.
I watch Daring Abroad. I like the stories which people bring.
Daring Abroad every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. with repeats every Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on NTV.
We have decided to reopen an old case due to the reoccurrence of similar criminal activities. This drug case that has nearly costed some of us our lives.
Mimi nilikuwa nataka tu kuchapa kaskudi kamoja.
Nimekushow next week kilo 2.
Bana! Mimi video bado nimeisha tu. Naweza kuwa umechukua.
Yo, Butruse K, the sharp god up in the mix, know what I'm saying? NTV, shout out to you, bro. Keep it locked, hey.
Sauti yako ina sound vizuri kwenye masikio.
I like it. Come to the dance floor, babe.
Angie.
Leo tuna festa pe banga.
Festa pe banga. Another banga.
And it's just like an amazing mix.
I am happy today. So happy. Sing kwa mavitu nani leo.
Oh yeah. Inaweka shida chini na tupa mikono juu. Banjuka tu.
No compromise, this the hottest combo.
Unistima, uninare. Mix on NTV. Don't touch that dial. Not yet. Not yet. No, what?
For 50 years, SBM Group has been a global cornerstone of stability and service, offering generations of customers the financial tools to build their futures. In Kenya, SBM Bank embarks on its 5th year. Through market fluctuations, economic downturns, and changing financial landscapes, it has remained steadfast in its commitment to providing the best possible service to its customers.
SBM has proved to be a very important partner to our business.
Banking with SBM, my money is safe.
Join us for an inside look at the history, impact, and future. Thursday, 20th April, 8:50 p.m. only on NTV.
SBM Bank for a smarter tomorrow. This is The Greatest Show, an all-stars affair. One goal, one stage. The London Marathon, 23rd April, live on NTV.
Kidney transplant entails getting this good kidney from one person and implanting it onto another person whose kidney has failed.
I got these questions like, will I be able to do any manual or physical labor? Will I also now be a sickling like you? So the first thing that the doctor did was, my whole family came together. We all went into the doctor's office for counseling. So we were explained to what kidney donation is.
There are some instances where the body can actually reject the kidney from the donor.
Getting that kidney is like being reborn again.
Okay.
Yes, because your body function returns normal.
My name is Jeffrey Kamoror, 5 times world champion. I'll be running in this year's London Marathon, which will be on 23rd April. Watch me live on NTV.
The London Marathon, 23rd April, live on NTV.
In life, you could be eager to be employed or be self-employed. Either way, you do need the right skills. This is the point where Goodwill is essential to you. Goodwall is a professional social media platform that offers you earning and learning opportunities. It offers you great chances to grow in your career, learn new skills, showcase your existing skills, network with like-minded people, or get job opportunities. Nation Media Group, in partnership with Goodwall, aim at providing solutions to unemployed African youth, creating digital content that inspires young people to stretch themselves and get the right skills that are useful to employers and their peers. So, how can you be part of this? Every month, we'll give you a chance to win $150 through our monthly challenge. Anyone can participate. Just look out for the challenges on NTV Kenya's social media platforms. Join the challenge now.
Pata taarifa teke na e-paper. Stay in the know on the go. Getting the full story bila ngori. To sign up, choose your preferred subscription. Use the promo code